Here we are. Hello. There's Nick. There's Mich. Okay, can we both be seen right now? Okay, here we go. Come in just a little bit closer. You're cute. Isn't
You want me to pull this back a little more? So you
Maybe.
have a little more, like...
Yeah. Sam is like my technical guy on everything.
Is that better?
Yeah.
Does that work? Cool. All right.
So, did you give him a scoop on time?
I did.
Okay, cool.
Good on that.
Oh, well, you're
Just kind of
good
use it
then.
as a guideline.
Yeah. Do you want me to do the interview too?
Will you?
Yeah.
Okay, Sam, here.
Yeah.
We call it
Tap in, tap
Sam,
out.
Sam Mash.
Yeah.
Sam Mash. Smash. It's the Smash Show with Sam Moll. Dun, dun, dun. Okay, are you ready? Nick Droege.
Droege, yep.
Droege.
Or anything.
Like
anything.
dragging me along. Droege. Nick Droege. Okay, got it.
And so we want this about like
Cool.
that.
Cool.
So, yeah.
Got it.
Perfect. And if you need to move to be comfortable or whatever, you can just take it with you wherever you go. So.
Cool.
Okay, just walk along the halls.
Right, yeah. And here we are in the lobby.
And look at this picture.
Okay, cool. Everyone ready?
I am ready.
Okay, here we go.
Hi, this is Mich Hancock, and you are listening to Mishmash, a place where I get to talk to the weird, wacky, wonderful people of this world, people I adore and want to know more about. Today, my guest is Nick Droege. Nick is the co-founder of SafeTrek, a mobile personal safety app that bridges the gap between doing nothing and calling 911 in an unsafe situation. Welcome, Nick.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for being here. So I told you before we started that you cannot believe how SafeTrek has been this part of my world. And so it started with, I'd heard about it a while ago, and I thought it was a great idea. I had no idea you were here in St. Louis. And then we were writing a blog for one of our clients about women traveling on their, like, business, a lot of women, business travelers, and many women are traveling on their own and just talking about some safety things. And I was like, we have to talk about this SafeTrek app would be a really good thing to blog about. So I contacted your company and asked some questions. I talked to Aaron, and Aaron was awesome and gave me all kinds of information, and then said, well, here, download the app so you can try it out. So I have it now, and I want to get it for my daughter, and I swear I want to get it for a lot of people. I think it's amazing. But talk about just what it does. I think this is so simple and yet so fascinating and very much needed. So listen up, people, because I'm going to tell you there's people you're going to want to get this for.
Well, it's hard. It's very easy to talk about what SafeTrek does, coming from a world that we've been doing it for 4 years now. But really, to explain it, it's better to back up and first explain the problem. And in general, not many people understand this because, so rarely do you actually have to call 911.
Right.
Or you're hopefully never in an emergency situation. But 911 was built on a landline infrastructure. So back in the day, and I barely remember landlines.
Right, right.
But back in the day, if you needed help, you call 911. It's in the hard line. So even if you can't talk, they already know your address. They know information about you. They can inform the first responders and dispatch them appropriately. Fast forward to the cell phone, smartphone era, 911 is still built on that landline infrastructure. And there's a lot of funding complications and why they haven't been able to make a massive update to transition to this smartphone era. But not many people understand that if you were to call 911 from your phone right now and can't talk, they really have no way of locating you. You have to be able
to give them your location.
Well, they do have some ways of locating you, but it's not accurate. So
Okay.
they can use cell towers in your area to try and use a method of triangulation to figure out where you are, but that gives about a 300-meter accuracy reading. Takes about 7 minutes to do it. And then you couple that with them really having no information about who you are, it's nearly impossible to send a first responder there. So that's one problem. Two is, if you think about it, even if you can talk and you call 911, if you're the person in the emergency, it's not really realistic. You're going to spend the first 5 minutes on the phone giving them basic information that we all transfer in the push of a button when we're trying to call an Uber right now, or
exactly.
a Lyft, or getting an Amazon package delivered, or Postmates, whatever that is. And so that's a serious problem. And, you know, most 911 public safety answering points, I'll shorten them as PSAPs probably moving forward in this conversation.
PSAPs. Got it.
The data about you that's transmitted is limited to about 500 characters. That's it, 500 characters, which is absolutely crazy.
A few tweets.
It's less data. It's less data than caller ID, to put it in perspective.
Wow.
Which is, you know, we live in 2017. It's crazy to think
with
about
information. Right.
So now that I've explained the problem, you know, when we started SafeTrek, we really wanted it to do two things. One, be a bridge between doing nothing and calling 911 when you felt unsafe, because there's way more people in the world that feel unsafe, and there are actually people that are unsafe. Doesn't mean you shouldn't be able to do something proactively when your gut says, hey, something isn't right.
I'm not in the best situation. I'm not in the best situation, or there's something that feels weird around me right now. Yeah.
Exactly. And so we wanted to provide an alternative to the most popular choice in those situations, which is doing nothing.
Mm-hmm. And praying.
Exactly. And praying. And secondly, and most importantly, in the event that you are in an emergency, we wanted to guarantee that we could get the help that you need, whether that's police, EMS, or fire, to your exact location, even if you can't talk or text, even though we certainly enable those functions if someone is able to do so. But we wanted to make sure that help is going to be on the way regardless of what happens or what your ability to communicate is.
Wow. It's amazing. And so talk about how easy it is, though.
Yeah,
I mean, you download the app, and what is the cost per month?
It's $3 a month.
$3 a month.
And yeah, there's a few different things. So there's our consumer app, our mobile application, which is really how we've gotten to this point, what most people know us for, which is what you're talking about, which is really simple. You launch the app. If you feel unsafe, let's say I'm walking from my office to my car at night, I simply hold my thumb down on the button. I get to my car, I let it go, I enter in my PIN, nothing happens.
Right.
Now, if something happens where you take your thumb off the button and you don't enter in your PIN, we go through our emergency dispatch sequence and get help to your exact location. That's one way. The hold until safe, which is on the button, branded on the button, is kind of been a popular use case, or a way that people use it. But we also have people that use it and just pull it out and tap the button and stick it back in their pockets, rather than holding the button down. They just use it as like a silent, discreet panic alarm. Some of the emergencies we deal with, domestic violence related situations, where being on the phone would escalate that person's level of danger. And so they use the button as just a one-tap panic alarm, put it in their pocket.
And then somebody is still called to their situation?
Exactly.
Interesting. Okay. So, and what I was thinking, I mean, you know, right now, so here we are in, you know, August, and there are going to be a number of parents sending their children off to college and freaking out about it. I would think this would be a wonderful gift to send the kids off with.
Yeah.
You know, if they're going to be on college campuses and what have you, that is, I feel it's one of, I mean, my daughter is definitely getting it. She's 15. She's at the point where, you know, I want freedom. And, you know, so we're in that weird balance of, here's a little bit, but not too much, you know. But you want these kids to have an easy way to get help if they need it.
Yeah, it's interesting, because when people ask us, you know, what in your mind, like, what are you selling? For us, it's peace of mind.
Right.
Peace of mind for the user of the application, the end user of that application, to live freely. And sometimes a peace of mind isn't just for the user, it's for the parents.
Right.
And we see that in a lot of cases. Our biggest demographic of users, because of the nature of where we started in college, is still college campuses. And so parents purchase the app for their kids. We even have university like Washington University who actually sponsored the app for all of their students, faculty, and staff.
Really? That's cool.
As just another safety measure.
I love that. I love that idea, that the school would sponsor it.
Yeah, it's something, you know, we've been so hyper focused on just focusing on our end customer rather than figuring out these larger enterprise
Right.
campus deals. But we have seen an influx of the past year, especially in outreach from businesses that want to work with us to protect their employees, to universities, to other safety applications and technologies that want to be able to enable this automatic dispatch component.
Right.
And that's really the other side of our business, and where we're heavily focused is that, we know we're really, really good at getting people help. And it's not easy. What we did over the past 4 years, really figuring out how to dispatch automatically anywhere in the U.S., is not something that has been replicated. And so what we do is we work with other safety apps that are coming into the space that want to be able to dispatch. Even wearable devices is where we're getting into now.
Right.
And so that's a really interesting avenue that we're pursuing at the moment.
So, and I want to talk more about that. We'll take a quick break.
Sure.
And we will be right back with Nick. Isn't this cool, Sam? Are you getting one?
Very.
Who are you going to get one for?
Everyone I know.
Right? I mean, I was thinking about it the other day, and I was like, this would be an awesome graduation gift to someone. You know what I mean?
For high school or for college, for both? Yeah.
Well, for high school, because, for both, because even no matter what, these kids, they're going, they graduate from high school, they're off to college. They graduate from college, they're off to wherever their job, career is going to take them. And I used it when I was, I'll talk about it later. Stop. I'll get to that.
I'm going to put this just slightly more toward you, actually. Cool.
There's Aunt Kathy. Hi, Aunt Kathy. It's so fun. It's so much fun, all the people.
The live stream.
Yeah, I love live streaming.
All right. Ready?
I am ready. And we are back with Nick, and we are talking about SafeTrek, this amazing mobile app. So how many people are like sitting there on the phones or wherever? What do they do? Tell me what that looks like. Paint a picture.
Yeah, so we have 75 Diamond certified Pro QA agents, not all at one time monitoring the back end, but it's kind of like an Amazon Web Services model for any of the techies out there.
Okay.
It scales up as we need it, so if there's a huge influx of active use sessions at the time, there'll be people that will onboard and we'll go up to 10 dispatchers or whatever it might be to be able to handle the carrying capacity of those users. That being said, we've never had to have that many at a time yet.
Right.
Because a few people can handle all of our user base at the moment, but we have 70 people trained to work on our back end. So what happens is
Do they go to one place, or
we have
are they...
3 locations,
Okay.
Lafayette, Chicago, and Baton Rouge.
Okay.
And so they're spread out just with certain regulations of time zones, and if there was a power outage, we had to kind of set it up that way.
Oh, so you really, there was a lot to think through to make this happen.
Yeah, so, we have an incredible group. There was a really smart group of people that we started with originally. Zach, Aaron, Brittany, our team now. We kind of have the right people in the right places. And it certainly every day still takes a group to think through, because this is not an easy problem to solve. But yeah, getting our operations set up for us to grow and scale to where we are now and where we're hoping to go was certainly the biggest challenge.
And did you all go to school together?
3 of us went to school together, and then Zach met Brittany out in San Diego, because we were out in San Diego initially after school before we moved it back here.
And you went to?
Mizzou.
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay. So 3 of you were at Mizzou, and then you started the company out in San Diego?
Started it our last year in Columbia.
Okay.
And then after graduation, out in San Diego. Actually, we're kind of spread out a few different locations, because some of us were working still when we were trying to get it off the ground, and that's when Zach met Brittany, and she's amazing. She's kind of like the heart of the company.
Okay, cool.
And so, yeah.
And then you guys decided, let's go to that startup world happening in St. Louis.
Yes. 3 of us from Missouri, 2 of us from here in St. Louis, kind of had some connections here, and obviously heard whispers of this ecosystem that was starting
We've
to
got
build
it going
here.
on here.
It's
And you're at T-Rex.
T-Rex currently. We've been there for, I guess, 15 months, 16 months. And we just recently signed a lease to start building out. We're building out a huge office space, actually on the second floor of T-Rex. Really, like the whole back half is going to be Safe Trek.
Wow.
And so we're here for the long term. Yeah.
So I have a very funny story, and for everyone out there, please don't do this. But my daughter, so TEDx has an office at T-Rex, and we were there. I brought my daughter along, and they don't want to. Her and her friend were there, and they don't want to hang out in a meeting, but it was after hours at T-Rex, so it was great. Big building to go run around and explore, and they were running around, and they wanted to go up on the roof. And so they're like asking the cleaning people, can you let us get up to the roof? And the cleaning people are like, no, kid. And then someone says, and she's telling me this, someone says, who wants to go up to the roof? And so
oh my gosh, it was Aaron.
And so, is that who it was? Okay, so she's like, we do. And so this guy's like, okay, I can get you up to the roof, but first you have to listen to me talk about Safe Trek.
It was definitely Aaron.
It was hilarious. And so then she's like, I already know about it. He's like, you do? And she did, because and so she's like, yeah, my mom knows about it. And so she told him the whole thing. He's like, awesome. And then he gave them access to the roof, and they went up there and took their selfies and what have you. But it was so that was Aaron. So
I was
Aaron,
standing right there, when that happened. It's hilarious.
My gosh!
Yeah.
Okay, that's hilarious. So I thought it was so funny, and I was like, good for you though that you actually remembered what it was.
Yeah,
I mean, that
amazing.
says I'm sure that they liked that there's people that actually know about this app and what it can do for them. Yeah. So you were there too?
Yes.
Oh my gosh, that's so funny. So, and then when I heard, so you're going to be one of our TEDxGatewayArch speakers to talk about this app.
Yes.
And so I'm looking through what all of our speakers, and I was like, oh my gosh, I know all about this Safe Trek thing. I am all over and I used it in Seattle. Because we were running around Seattle, and we had an Uber driver, and I mean, most Uber drivers are great, right? But we had one guy that wasn't so great, and he decided, well, this is fine. You just want to get off here and then walk over there. And me not really paying attention, I got out and I went, oh, this isn't a good place for him to drop off my daughter and I in the middle of Seattle.
Oh,
and we ended, and we were fine. I mean, our destination wasn't that far, but I was like, thank you that I have this safe
Did you
check.
use it? Did you hold down the button, or
I
did you just had it
button.
open?
I held down, and I didn't have to use it, thank goodness. But it really is easy. I mean, it is that easy, because I think that, what would you do otherwise? I mean, you've got your phone, you do 9-1 and just get ready for the other one. I mean, you may not have the wherewithal to, and so I love that the ease of use for this, to me, says so much. I mean, just that simplicity, but I'm so impressed with everything that's gone behind it.
It's interesting, because if you think about, at the time when we were starting, there really weren't a lot of safety apps in the space. Now it seems like there's hundreds. But it's interesting, because when you think of like the alternatives to what we do, it's like you said, I dial 911, have it ready to call, which if something happens, like, and you can't talk,
right,
probably not going to get the help you need.
They're not going to find you.
Or two, it's like, hey, I'm going to call a loved one and have them on the phone, which if you think of like the safety apps that are out there, and you look at like Safe Trek competitors,
right.
A lot of them have this like family or loved one or trusted person monitoring feature, where I can tell mom or dad or husband or wife that I'm going here, and if something happens, it'll notify them.
They'll know where I'm at.
But
right.
the issue with that is, like, that's a marketable feature. On our back end, we have an emergency contact that people can input, but we leave it to the dispatcher and the first responder to decide when or if they should involve them.
Right.
Because the issue is that if mom or dad might want to know that you're in an emergency, but in all reality, they can't do anything about it.
Right.
They're not the most important people that need to know to get you help.
Right.
It's the first responder, as quick as possible. And if they do know, they're going to try and call 911. They're probably not located in the same location as you, so the cell tower is going to route them to the wrong PSAP that can't help them with this emergency that's wherever it might be.
Exactly.
And so there are some challenges with that.
Yeah. So what is the future? I mean, you guys are going to look at the larger
Yeah.
Like, larger offerings to larger organizations and entities. But what are some other things you're working on?
Yeah, it's interesting because I personally have spent a lot of time on this bulk purchase, bulk partnership type of model, and exploring that with Washington University, some of the businesses, and it's interesting to us, but I think we'll take those as they come in inbound and work with people on a one-off basis as they want to protect an employee base or a small population of residents or students, or et cetera. But our focus is actually, how do we enable automatic safety? You still think of SafeTrack today, our mobile application, we brand it as Hold and Tell Safe. That's just, when you say SafeTrack, we think of the company. When you say Hold and Tell Safe, we think, oh, that's our mobile application.
Right.
So we kind of brand it differently. But when you think of that today, it still requires you to do something.
Yes.
And so you're walking to your car, you still hold your thumb down. It's a use case. But as we expand and move forward, it's more about how do we take that same technology that powers that automatic dispatch when you let go and don't enter in your PIN, and insert it in places in your life where you might experience an emergency event, and completely eliminate the need for you to talk, text, or even think about it. So before or even at the instant that you're in an emergency, help is already on the way.
Wow.
So if you think about a car accident, you've been in a car accident, your OBD due port tells us that an airbag's being deployed, we're already sending help to your location.
Oh, gotcha.
Or you're wearing a wearable and it detects that you're having a heart attack, we're already sending help to your location. And of course, there's the thousands of applications that are emerging in the App Store that will continue to power, that require user prompts, because those are important too. But where we're hyper-focused right now is figuring out who are the companies and partners that have technology to detect events, emergency events, with a high level of certainty. So then we can then say, okay, we're going to tie emergency dispatch to that because we know they're likely in an emergency event.
Wow.
And so that's kind of the focus of how do we build the new 911?
Right.
And what does automatic safety look like? And we're trying to be at the frontier of that.
That is amazing. Good for you guys.
Thank you.
We are going to take another quick break, and we will be right back with Nick. That's so amazing.
Yeah, it's been an interesting transition because a year ago, we too would label ourselves as we're the mobile app,
right?
And maybe not a year ago, 2 years ago, and then we started having people reach out inbound organically, like, hey, we're starting a safety app. We see that you guys can actually send people help. How do you do that? Can we work with you to use your back end to be able to send people help? And that just started to keep increasing. And now we believe that is the future of the business, because we might live in a world in 5 years where there's not mobile apps, and you see the emergence of voice, of chat bots, of other technology
voices
is big.
Is very disruptive. Mm-hmm. It's going to do some things. Yeah, we had a TEDx pop-up salon, and we had a gentleman that came in and talked about
the future of voice. Yeah.
Amazing.
If you couple chatbots, AI, and voice, you're looking at the combination of those three somewhere represents probably the future and the replacement of what we see as mobile applications.
Or
today.
we'll have personal robots that know how to do ninja
that might be the case too.
All right, I am ready. It's question time.
Cool.
Here we go.
And you are back listening to Mishmash, and we are talking to Nick Droege about SafeTrack. So I've got some questions for you.
Okay.
I'm going to take you back to your so long ago, your college days.
Okay.
For me, it's like
I don't know if you want to know college, Nick.
Well, no, we're not going to talk about anything easy. But you started Tiger Pantry.
Yeah.
And so I want you to tell us about Tiger Pantry, but I also want you to tell us, like, what was the food that you were most happy to see donated? What was the canned good you went, yeah, that's what we need?
Interesting. This is funny. I haven't gotten asked about Tiger Pantry in a long time.
I know. That's why you're here.
So the interesting thing with Tiger Pantry was, when you think about when you think about social issues, a lot of people will be the first to say like hunger. Oh, hunger, because it's the easy one to associate with all sorts of problems. But not many people will think about food insecurity. Same way, and I like to compare that like the same way like when people think about diversity or talk about diversity, it's easy to talk about race or sexual orientation.
Right.
People don't talk about diversity in socioeconomic class, income levels, etc. And that in college is actually, in my opinion, one of the biggest gaps, as there's so many people from so many different socioeconomic classes.
Right.
And Mizzou and state institutions in general are really the ones that are supposed to take everyone on, make it accessible for everyone. The issue is that some people would go to Mizzou, they would have limited support from their family, they wouldn't have, the means to prop themselves up appropriately, and so they wouldn't be hungry, but they wouldn't be food secure. They would, be buying Cheetos or fast food all the time, or whatever that is.
Really inexpensive food with low nutritional value.
And then when you start to add, low income individuals that also have families that are there, there are some really big problems that exist on college campuses. And so food insecurity is something that, flies under the radar for most people. And, we kind of saw that personally, and that was really the inspiration behind starting Tiger Pantry, was how do we, yes, there are food banks already in the Columbia area. If we just wanted to set up a food bank and get people access to food, we could set up a shuttle bus and take people back and forth to the food bank. But actually, how do we create a resource that takes people from a food insecure place to a food secure place? And so going back to your question about was I most excited to get donated, it wasn't really a donation. It was a commitment from the university, one of the professors, that said that we could use a sustainability class and a plot of land to actually start bringing in fresh food, which was huge because it took us from just this canned food, bagged food. Because prior to that, I would probably answer what most food pantries would say: peanut butter, chicken,
something with protein.
Exactly.
In it. Right.
But that was that was interesting. I mean, now it's kind of cool to check in with them because since it started, it's given out over 100,000 pounds of food. I mean, it's done a lot of things that I never envisioned would be Tiger Pantry, but kind of cool to reflect on that.
Good.
Thanks for asking.
You. Yeah. That's so cool. I'm glad I did. I love finding out information about people. And okay, so in your call center employees, like, is there a certain what are you looking for in those people? Is there like a thing that you're really looking within them? Aaron
is really the right person to talk to about this, but I think I could get close to answering what he would say. I think we look for people that have a level of empathy and compassion and heart, because, even if you talk to 911 dispatchers, those people are heroes.
Right.
I mean, if you think of a 911 dispatcher today, they have so little data coming in, but they are trying to do everything they can to get this person help. Same thing with our agents. I mean, they have a lot more data coming in. But these people choose this way of life, and they're not connecting face to face. It's a really stressful job, and it takes a certain type of individual that is so passionate about getting people help and making sure people are okay.
And that's awesome to know that those are the people on the other end, right? With that, I mean, that's wonderful. Okay, and let's go to millennials.
Okay.
I love millennials. All right, I have millennial mindset. I'm definitely not a millennial, but I totally have millennial mindset. And when millennials started showing up, I was like, my people. So you had actually written a blog about millennials, and that they don't want just a job; they're looking for the right job. And I so understand that, and I see, and I've always been that way. Like, I don't want just any job. I want the job that fuels me and makes me happy and makes me feel good about what I'm doing. And do you see that is that just a general way
I mean,
millennials?
First off, I'll disclaim that I don't want to, speak on behalf of millennials, because I think if there's anything that I've learned about millennials, it's that we all have a different idea.
Please quit talking about us.
Exactly. I can speak specifically for my own personal experiences. Right out of college, before Safe Trek was where it is today, before raising money, etc. I took a traditional not traditional, but a consulting corporate job.
Mm-hmm.
And I have never been more miserable in my life. And that was, I think it was a lot of things. One, I think it was a combination of, I had just come from this experience at Mizzou where I was able to work on Safe Trek and Tiger Pantry and things that I got up every day and I was like super motivated.
Right, exactly.
I felt like I was doing my part to make the world a little better. Whether that was true or not, I felt it. And then you took all those aspects away and it was like I was just going to work for corporations to figure out how to improve their bottom line. And that's a different, I highly respect the field. There's some really smart people. I think that's, a huge disconnect in what, my parents' generation was versus ours, where I think, there's more of the mentality in my parents' generation is like, you just get a good job.
Yeah, get up, go to work.
Get a good job.
Right.
Provide for your family, and that's something you can be proud of. And I certainly believe the same thing. On the other hand, I think there's this more complicated piece of us as humans, not just as millennials, but I think millennials were told it's okay to speak your mind. It's okay to be unhappy. It's okay to voice that. It's okay to change. And now, we're just not really content with the status quo. Like, we don't want to just be, feel okay.
Right.
Like, we want to feel good. We want to be motivated.
Well,
we want to be inspired.
Bigger scope. And, like, what I'm doing has a much bigger scope than, yes, you do need to get up and be purposeful and provide for you, your family, what have you. But then to also think, and I'm helping out the world in this way.
And I think a lot of that might be attributed to our parents, because I know if you look at, like, you can find any post on this online, I feel like, of like the 100 things you regret at the later stages in your life.
Right.
And I feel like we have just had it beat into our heads.
Don't regret your life.
Don't regret this.
Yeah.
Like, don't regret this. You're not going to care about the money. You're not going to care about all these things. And now it's almost like it's almost like we've taken all of that and we're trying to solve for everything so early in our life. Like, I am 25. I need to have explored the world. I need to be working on my passion project. I need to have checked off that I tried to start a business.
Right.
Blah, blah, blah. And I don't know if that's realistic either. It's probably somewhere in the middle. But
hey, it's awesome. I mean, I think it's awesome though. And I mean, I think I love thinking in that bigger scope of things, and we do need it. We need this on Earth right now. I mean, there's some things that aren't looking so good. We got to help it out.
Yeah. I could not agree more. I mean, there can never be too many people trying to solve the world's biggest problems, in my opinion. But
exactly.
Maybe we all don't need to have a 9-to-5 doing it, but
right. And then you're an entrepreneur, and it's like 9 to 9.
Exactly.
People, you think to yourself, yeah, I didn't want to be a part of the corporate world. I didn't want the 9 to 5. I'm like, and now I work like all the time. But it's stuff I love doing.
I think that it's so accurate. And I think if there's one thing I have learned, like maybe the one lesson I have at least started to master, is I feel like from jumping back and forth several times, like I realized the grass, there's always some patch of grass on the other side that's greener.
Right.
And so it is so much better if you can figure out on a regular basis how to remind yourself how green your grass is.
I love it. I love it. Your grass is green.
Exactly. Yeah. And anyways.
Well, thank you, Nick, and I look forward to your talk
at
our TEDx event.
It won't be a long one. It's just a quick demo talk. So
yeah, but an important demo talk. Yeah. So thank you so much for
Thanks for having me. Really appreciate it.
All right, sir. Well, you all out there have been listening to Mishmash. Please go to iTunes and subscribe, and we always have awesome people on like Nick. Thank you.
Thanks. Awesome.
So I have to ask you, I have this cousin Zeke. He just went through his white coat ceremony. He's going to Mizzou.
Okay.
So is there
med school?
What?
Yeah.
Yes. What should I tell him? Like, is there some awesome piece of advice about Mizzou I should give to him?
Well, he's going to med school. Like, I feel like his experience and my experience are drastically different
Really
things.
different. Okay, gotcha.
But, I mean, for me, I enjoyed how hyper-local the town was. Like, you become this, like, whether you want to or not, you become this, like, townie of Columbia.
Okay, cool.
And I really enjoyed that, like, going to, like, I don't know, the flat branches of the world and the, like, small little breweries, and I became, like, a foodie of Columbia.
I love college towns. I love
great.
college towns for that reason.
I couldn't imagine going to, having that experience any, like, outside, like, in a big city or whatever.
Right.
It's an interesting place.
Oh,
So.
cool.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. We have to get a selfie. Bye, everybody. Thank you for tuning in with us.